Well, hey guys, I popped on just a couple of minutes early, kind of waiting to see who might be here before we get into today's card. I actually went through my stash yesterday because here lately, for some reason, I feel like I need to get back to the basics. Fun folds are great. They're awesome. And it's wonderful to learn those. And it's wonderful to learn new techniques. But a lot of times, more often than we care to admit, I think we need that easy button. Okay, we just do. So if you're just hopping on, welcome. Whether you're new, returning, you are all such a blessing in my life. And this is wonderful. It's wonderful. Got one more minute until it is 10 o'clock, and so I thought I might give you a little bit of a backstory. So in my stash, this was the layout that I found that I thought was so adorable. Now, let me tell you something about how I do my samples. Sometimes it's a whole card base, sometimes not. But I will take pieces, even if they aren't the right size. Like you can see that the back side of this is not really cut the right size, but it was big enough for me to lay my pieces out on, so I just went with it. Same for the inside of the card. I just went with it. And so that was my little sample. What I have started doing here lately is only taking one piece of cardstock and not a whole card base to lay out my template on the front. And that way there, it just doesn't take up as much room. But I hope everybody has had a great start to their week. I am so excited today because we got above freezing yesterday a little bit. I was actually able to start seeing some yard show through all that snow that we got last Monday. Depending on where we measured, it was as much as 8 inches to as little as 5 inches and points in between. So that is not normal for us here in East Tennessee. For those of you who live up north and you're used to just seeing mounds of snow every winter, my heart goes out to you. Bless you for having to deal with that. We've not had mail delivered since last Monday until yesterday. We got a little bit. We actually went to the post office last week and had to pick our mail up, only to be told a lot of it was out on the truck, but the truck could not get out here to where we are. So I'm hoping today we see a lot more. All right, guys, it is 1 minute after 10 o'clock. Let me show you. Today we are using Pebble Path and Calypso Coral for our color scheme, only 2 ink pads. And we are using stippled roses. We're going to be using this die and stamp right here, and we're going to stamp that in the Pebble Path. And the sentiment is going to come from Thoughtful Expressions. Where in the world would I be without you? And finally, we are going to use this new embossing folder, the Layered Florals 3D. And so let me tell you what you're going to need. Get out your pen and paper if you want to be writing this stuff down. My card base is going to be basic white, and it's 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and score that. Obviously, do a traditional card base. That would be 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 and score it at 4 1/4. You absolutely can do that. And then you are going to need a piece of Pebble Path that is 4 by 5 1/4 for the outside. You are going to need a scrap for the die cutting, and this is about 3 by 4. It may actually be a little bit more than 4. Again, I go through my scraps and I find what works, okay, so that I'm not cutting into my cardstock and making even more scraps. And you will need a piece of DSP that is 3 1/4 by 2 1/2. Now the DSP is coming from one of the wonderful freebies in Celebration. Y'all have seen this in your catalog if you haven't already got it in your hands. And it's called Softly Stippled 12 by 12. Calypso Coral is one of the colors in it, and one of the colors that is going to also be featured in our card today. You will need another piece of DSP that is 2.5 by 1 5/8. It's directional, so be aware of that. If you also are going to be using either the same, or you've got something in your stash that you just want to get used up, absolutely just be mindful of how you cut that. And then you will need one strip of cardstock that is 1 inch by 5 inches, and we're going to emboss it. And let's go ahead and get that embossing done, and then we can start to get ready to put all of this together. I'm not going to keep you here very long today. I'm not. I'm going to bring in my Intricate by Gina K. And once I open these up, it's going to suck down to my surface. And I hope that's not too loud. I actually have ordered a microphone that hopefully, and I'm hoping that it really cuts down on background noise. Whoops, accidentally turned off my light there. Sorry about that if everything kind of went dark. So I need my embossing folder so that we can emboss that strip. Oh my goodness, I don't understand why I am still so nervous when it comes to doing lives. I mean, honestly, it should be the same for me. That's not perfectly straight, which probably doesn't matter a whole lot, but all right, so here we go. And I'm used to putting my cutting mat on the bottom because I do probably a lot more die cutting than I do anything else, than I do embossing. So I'm just going to hold on to that. It's a, it doesn't matter what die cut and emboss machine you use. Anytime you're embossing, it takes a little bit more oomph. And I've got a, let me raise this up. I have got on the side here. Now I'm going to go to die cut because we do have that one die cut to do. And I'm going to leave it on 0, which that's pretty much where I leave it for embossing, die cutting. I haven't found I have to mess with that setting too much. All right. Let me put this over here till we get ready to die cut, and we'll get out that strip. But I'm just so excited for all this to melt. We actually had one icicle that was all of 3 foot long. That just blows my mind. All of 3 foot long. All right. So I have spent some of my time here this morning getting ready for this video, and I went ahead and I tuned in. How many of you are familiar with Louis Giglio? That last name is spelled Giglio. He's a wonderful pastor. He is over Passion Church. I believe he still is. He may have retired from that by now, but somehow I kind of doubt it. Anyway, he did this wonderful video sometime back that, and by the way, I cut mine 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. Definitely cut your layer here at 4 by 5 1/4 if you want a little bit more of the white to show you do you. We're going to go ahead and get this. Isn't that beautiful? I love it. We're going to go ahead and get this ready to be put on here. And because it is so beautifully embossed, lots and lots of detail, it's going to take a little bit more glue than normal. And, do a dry run with all your cut pieces first to try to keep your Did I not cut that right? You know, I am thinking I picked up the wrong piece. So we're going to fix it. No worries. Let's see, do I have a piece that is big enough? I don't know if this scrap here is big enough. Let me just get my pack of paper and I'll make real sure, because I was not doing a top folding card initially. Let me measure this and see, am I an inch? You know, there had to be something. It's actually just a little over an inch, so I'll trim that down. And this is 5.5. All right, let me grab my trimmer, which I didn't have over here because I didn't think I needed it. All right, let me get my trimmer here. I've had that locked. Let's unlock that. And let's make sure we are 1 inch. I think I'm anywhere from a 1/16 to an 1/8 over it being an inch. There we go. And now, what I also need to do is make real sure of my length. And my length is almost 5.5. So let's cut that. 5 3/8. So we're going to go to 5 3/8 and just cut off that little bit. Sorry about that, guys. I didn't follow my own directions very well, evidently. Anyway, Louis Giglio put out a video sometime back, and it's called Indescribable. That video will blow you away. I was so impressed. I actually bought the DVD, but it's called Indescribable. Now, a little backstory on that. He and Chris Tomlin are very good friends. And if you have listened to Chris Tomlin any at all, you know that he did a song called Indescribable. And that was the title of this video. Now, the one that is on YouTube is only about 42 minutes long. And I will ask you that if you decide to go watch it, give him about 5 or 6 minutes. I got to get that out of my way. For it to really get into his presentation. I'm telling you guys, it will blow your mind. Absolutely. But that 42 minutes is only about half of the original. So if you watch that and you're thinking, oh man, I really want to see the rest of it, by all means, please do go to christianbook.com or any place. I would imagine it might even be on Amazon. I haven't looked, haven't needed to, because I have the actual DVD. But there is so much more to his presentation than what you're going to see on YouTube. However, it'll get your feet wet. It will blow your mind. But he will continue to keep blowing your mind. At this point, we're going to stop, because I want to do the sentiment on this layer and need to do some heat embossing. So I've already got my Misty kind of prepped. And believe it or not, I know this looks awfully dirty, but I have used it so hard and heavy that, but it'll hold my paper. And I'm going to take my beloved powder tool from Rabbit Hole Designs. And we're just going to put a little bit of powder down. I'm loving this. It works so much better for me than other tools do. Okay, now I am going to be using my VersaFine pigment ink. Okay, and let me I didn't mean to leave that in there. We'll come back to that here in a minute. And let's ink this up. Am I in camera where y'all can even see what I'm doing? This screen looks so much different when I go through StreamYard. So much different. That looks pretty good. And just going to press that down. Now, the reason why I am not using Memento, this is a pigment ink. It doesn't dry right away, which is why I prefer this if I'm going to do heat embossing. Because here's the thing. If you have ever used black embossing powder, you know what a mess that can be. That's looking really good, but I'm going to do it one more time. My big W looks a little faint kind of in the middle. Don't know if you can pick up on that or not. But if you want to get a bird's eye view of where we fit into all of creation, this video will just absolutely blow your mind. It is one I enjoy ever so often going back and watching again and again. Now, it may be on YouTube split up into several different videos, but I know what I watched this morning didn't even begin to get into the golf ball comparison of our universe, so definitely check that out. I'm going to leave that closed for just a second. I'm going to bring in my clear embossing powder. I'm almost out of this Stampin' Up! Clear embossing powder. But when I order it, I will usually order 2 or 3 containers at one time because they're so tiny. And I've decided to order elsewhere. There we go. It didn't take much. Can you tell? It's on there, and it's on there really well. So I'm going to lay that for a second. Let's cover this back up. I'm in a habit, even when I'm here by myself in the craft room, I cover up my powder. If I've used Versamark, I put the lid back on it. And again, I am going to, let's see, I think I want this. And I'm not sure about this sticky mat having the heat put on it. So let's get ready and preheat the heat tool here for a second. I said let's get ready and preheat the tool. Am I unplugged? I think I'm unplugged. I was in here last night doing some laminating of actual things that needed to be laminated with my laminator. It was the first time in months and months and months that I had used my laminator for anything other than foiling. So that was kind of cool. All right. And this heats up so quick. I do enjoy Stampin' Up's heat tool. So can y'all see it starting to change and get dark? I hope you can. I got to get the heat where I need it. Got to tilt it down. That may block your view. I'm so sorry because it is so much fun to watch this come together. Just make real sure I did get it all. And I did. Apologize for the noise there. I do. Now, can you see that pretty shine? And if you were here to touch it, you would feel that raised texture. And so we're going to just kind of make sure that's good and cool. There's barely any warmth left. But I love that sentiment. I actually have somebody in mind for that. And I do need to clean that stamp. And I will tell you, the VersaFine and some of the other pigment inks, they'll stain your stamp a little bit. You'll see here in just a second when I get this off. Okay, I've got the worst of it off. Of course, y'all know me. None of us really mind inky hands, do we? I would hope not. But I'm going to take my Stampin' Scrub and give it a final clean. Let me just peel that off of there and just rub that over and all that delicious Stamping Mist goodness. Because it doesn't just cling, guys. If you're not aware, if you've never used it, it will also condition your stamps. So can you see how there's a little tint right there on it? Doesn't hurt the stamps. Don't be afraid to experiment with your inks. There are so many different inks, and they all have different properties, and yeah, it's wonderful to play with. And it's just like our glues, right? We have all different kinds of glues, and they all have their own property. And so sometimes you need more of the same kind of tool to really branch out in your card making. So for the minute, I'm going to set that to the side. I'm going to bring this over here, and I want to line it up to where I'm even on the sides and an even border around. And I'm using my Bearly Art glue because I'm using really thin DSP, and Bearly Art glue is designed not to wrinkle, and it is not as thick as our green glue, as it's called, or Tombow. I prefer to call it Tombow because that's the actual name. In the catalog, it's called multi-purpose because it really is a multi-purpose glue, and it's a great glue. But when I'm dealing with really thin cardstock, I prefer to have the Bearly Art glue. And it dries really quick, and it's really strong. Okay, got that down. Now let's get ready and stamp and die cut our branch, our leaf, to put on this card. And I will show you how different both cards look at the end. Let's see, where's my stamp? Here's my stamp. Here's my scrap piece. Let's tuck it down into the corner. And I'm just going to lay my stamp on top, as long as I have a big enough piece. And again, this is about a 3x4, because that is a really good size piece. We're going to get ready to stamp that. Now, I am going to bring in my Pebble Path, because there's Pebble Path in that particular piece of DSP that I decided to use. And of course, it has the Calypso Coral in it. It also has Wild Wheat in it, and something I kind of wanted to point out. So this particular pattern, see how there are places, well, you can't really because a lot of it is hidden. Guys, I've been using my hands hot and heavy, and I know they don't look good, and I apologize for that. I'm so sorry. And it's winter, and all the heat and all the dryness is really doing my skin a big number. But there are areas where you won't have any Pebble Path. You see what I'm saying? But then there are other areas that have Pebble Path. So if you have this paper, and should you decide to do this layout, be mindful of how you cut. It may be that you want your accent color to either be white, which is, prominent as well, or the wild wheat that is in here. You may not go the direction I did, but that was because the piece that I cut out does have this in it. Okay, it does have the Pebble Path. Let's go ahead and stamp this. I'm not going to be heat embossing this one. All right, isn't that pretty? I don't think I'm going to re-ink that again. I just don't think I am. And let's kind of clean that off very quickly. I'm loving this. It comes with the studio, the Glass Mat Studio. If you sign up to become a demonstrator and enjoy your discount on all your future orders and all the other benefits, seeing things early, getting your catalogs early, all those delicious fun things that are perks of signing up with Stampin' Up. And if you decide to join my team, I will do my best to spoil you with regular tutorials, free PDFs, all kinds of good fun. All right, so now we've got that, and I know it's already dry because Stampin' Up inks are a dye-based ink. They're a water-based dye ink. So we're going to die cut that very quickly. Get my dye out. Where are my dyes? Well, here we go. All my new stuff I really keep close by. Where's my dye? That's not it. Where'd I put it? Okay. I gotta have that dye. Oh, poo. Thoughtful Expressions is so on my mind. It's a stippled rose dye. Silly. All right, here we go. Got the dye. Is that it? Oh my heavens, guys. I better not have lost a dye. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8. Am I just not seeing it? Is that it? That is it. I was going to say, I'm so careful, guys, when I'm in my craft room and I've been using anything and I get ready to leave my room and I make sure my glue is capped and my ink pads have not been left open, yada, yada. Yeah. And so I'm rabid to the point that, yeah, I'm always counting my stamps, make sure they're all there, etc., etc. Let's open this back up. And I've already got it set on die cut. And I'm going to put in my cutting mat. I'm putting my die in face down. Well, I said I was putting it in. Can you tell my tape is well used? There's really hardly any sticky left. I'm going to see if I can get one more run out of this before I throw it away. Because I really appreciate, and I'm sure y'all do too, not having to spend your money repeatedly on basic supplies. So there we go. I think that'll hold. Well, I'm a little off down here, aren't I? There we go. Okay. Rocking and rolling. But yeah, that indescribable is, it will blow your mind. Literally. It is amazing. If you've never seen it or watched it, you are in for a real treat. And he's got lots of other good videos that are also on YouTube. I haven't watched the one on Lamium in a while, so that may be something I'll watch later today. It's a much shorter video. That one will kind of blow your mind too. All right, let me get my die back in here. But it was a great way to start my day. And I also watched probably my #1 favorite YouTube channel, and has been for some time, is Garden Answer. Love, love, love that channel. You know, one of these days, oh, I can't do that. Like I always did with my Stampin' Up cut and emboss machine, I would always leave my plates in there. This thing, can you see? It is locked down until I raise the flaps, and then I can move it. And so I'm having to still remember to do that. But I'm liking that machine. I don't have cutting plates that are going to warp, etc. I'm going to bring in a piece of scratch paper. Now, when I ordered my Misty recently, I got a sample pack of the grid paper. I've never used it until today. I want to show you what they have written. As each has received a gift, use it to serve one another as good stewards of God's varied grace, Peter 4:10. I was so amazed. I was blown away. All right. Hi, Sherry. Hi, Lala. Phyllis. Yes, hello, hello. Thank you for being here and supporting me despite all my little goofs up. And I was in here extra early trying to make sure I had all my T's crossed and my I's dotted. And we're just going to put a layer of um, the stella on here, which I know y'all not really going to see it on camera, but I'm just doing the leaves. And actually, I think on my sample card, I did 2 layers, but one is good enough for the recipient to pick up on that little shine. And the recipient will actually enjoy your heat emboss sentiment, or you can stamp it plain. One of my favorite bits of DSP that Stampin' Up puts out is the fact that they do those washes, like this gray is like a wash, okay, and other light colors that they have put out with kind of that same technique, and it's wonderful to stamp on. You don't have to do a separate sentiment and all that good stuff unless you just really want to add that into your particular design. And you're going to see the big difference between the 8.5 by 5.5 card base and the 4.25 by 11 card base here in just a second. I'll bring them both out together at the same time. And I didn't emboss that, did I? Well, poo. Okay. I didn't emboss it. That's okay. Onward and upward, because we are almost done with this delicious layout. And I will give you the cutting dimensions one more time before all is said and done. And something else I noticed about this wonderful, wonderful shape and cut. You could, if you wanted to, reposition it. You could even position it in a way where you could hide the stem. I'm not worried about hiding the stem. I just thought it was a beautiful frame for this easy peasy layout. And then on the inside, y'all know me, and especially this particular card with that sentiment on it. I don't know what I'm going to want to say on the inside, and I'm probably not going to stamp another sentiment on the inside. But what I will do is take another layer of Pebble Path 4 by 5.25 and a sheet of basic white that is 3 3/4 by 5. And there is that sweet little rose stamp in the stippled rose. And I just stamped it in the Calypso Coral on the inside. But can you see the shine of that embossing? And I know you can't pick up on the Wink of Stella, so we're not even going to try. But there are 2 coats on there, and there are 2 coats on this one. Now, do you see how different they look? Using the same dimensions. So we had this strip that was 1 inch by 5. Let's see, which card base do I have here? 1 inch by 5 on the regular, well, okay. So I ran this one all the way and I didn't that one. So I'm going to measure this and see if I was right to begin with. And I've lost my ruler. Here it is. So was that 5 inches? Yes, it was. So I was right to begin with and I panicked. Okay, onward and upward, guys. So then your big piece of DSP again is 3 1/4 by 2.5. This smaller piece is 2.5 by 1 5/8. And then, of course, you've got your die cut. And there's a myriad of things that you can do with this. You can use all cardstock layers of different colors. That would be really pretty. You can do the embossing. See how much better this one looks with the embossing than just the plain cardstock. But if you don't have an embossing folder, you absolutely could get away with doing that. This is such a wonderfully flexible layout that I mean, the sky is the limit. You can color your cardstock. You can use colored cardstock. You could do a black and white. That would be very stunning in and of itself. So, oh, thank you, Phyllis. I hope to try to be down to earth. I try to be myself as much as I can. Oh, you got a Misty yesterday. Yay. I think you'll enjoy it. And I will tell you, and I'm just being honest, I did so love how the stamparatus could be picked up and the hinges altered. You can't do that on the Misty. Obviously, there is a workaround for that. And I didn't use that feature a whole lot, but I thought it was unique with the stamparatus. And I've still got mine. I keep it right along with my Misty. And there are times I'm going to be using it myself in my craft room for different techniques. It's not going anywhere, but I don't feel like I can use it on videos because you guys can't order it, okay? So, anyway, what do you think? This one's got the bigger borders because of the way we cut the card base. Okay, so this is a tent fold. It will tend to stand up better for your recipient. Well, they're both tent folds, so I messed up on that. But what do you think? And so depending on how you lay your stuff out, how you do your margins, and that is why, and I should have followed my own advice to do a dry run before I started picking up pieces and laying them down. But it's okay. It's all good. We can still use our cards even despite our little mess ups. And I see I'm still just a titch over right there. There may be a way I can hide it. Now, I did go through my stash of bling. And this stuff is retired. It was called Polished Dots. And I did take my dark Calypso Coral and I colored 3 of them thinking, well, it would be nice to put that on there. And I like the Calypso Coral. However, I honestly am thinking, so I'm going to divide it up here. We're going to use 3 of the dark colored ones on one card. And we're going to use these that came as I don't know if that was supposed to be pale papaya, which is now retired. But we're just going to use both shades because I think either one would work for this card. And understand, you can take your Stampin' Blends and pretty much color any of the bling that Stampin' Up sells. And if they're a really pale color like these were, then they take that color just fine. So I'm going to take the uncolored ones. And I miss pale papaya. I was so sad to see that retire. It did retire, right? I believe it did. I don't see it. So I keep all of my retired cardstock and my retired ink pads because we also do the ministry at church, the card ministry. And so I don't have to worry about whether things are retired or not in the ministry. So you be the judge. Big borders, smaller borders. This cardstock was cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and you see what a difference that made. This cardstock was cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and it kind of brought everything in a little bit better. And even though I love my skinny borders, for this particular layout, using these dimensions, I think I prefer this one. But you be the judge and you play. Take some typing paper and cut out your pieces and do dry fits with them with your different dimensions. It could be that this is okay to use. Maybe the pieces should have been cut a little bit bigger, but then that way there you can tweak it to your heart's content. And I did finish off the inside of this one. Did not do this one on camera today. So I hope this is a layout that maybe was new to you. And I hope it is something you can use because honestly, you don't need really big pieces of paper to do this layout. That's the beauty of it. You can just put together, you got some retired DSPs, some stuff you were wanting to kind of get used up. Depending on how much you've got, you could do a bunch of these. Sit down, do your card bases, do all your cutting at one time. And then while you're watching a movie, whatever, you can sit there and just put them together, boom, 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 and there you go. You would have your thank you cards, your birthday cards, whatever kind of card. And this actually would be just fine for a sympathy card. And it's a layout that will serve you well. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I will try to get replied to all of your comments, and even comments that are made. If you're watching the replay, that is awesome. Thank you for being here, supporting my channel. I am just blessed beyond measure. So until we meet again, I will have a pre-recorded video uploaded for you Friday. It will release at 8 a.m. Eastern time. Until then, y'all be safe, be blessed. Know you are loved. God is good all the time. Bye.